My name is Megan, and this is Everything Lit. Today, I'm going to be talking about the backlist books that I wanted to read in 2022. And did I read them? I had a list of 10 books, and spoiler alert, I only read 4. So let's talk about the 4 that I did read. I read Reverie by Ryan LaSala, and this is actually Ryan LaSala's debut. His 3rd book is coming out soon. It actually might already be out. Finally got to this. I bought it in hardcover. Paperback definitely is already out. We know how I feel about that. But this was fantastic. It was not what I expected. It was so much better, so much more imaginative and fantastical. Reverie is about Kane Montgomery. He got into an accident and has lost his memory. And then weird things start happening. He sees things that maybe aren't there, and then he sort of reconnects with this group of friends, and the fantastical elements start. I kind of don't want to spoil this because it's so strange, but the title Reverie has to do with daydreams, essentially. And these people, let me see, does it tell us? It just says a sinister force tries to alter reality. So it keeps it vague, and I don't know if that does the book a disservice, if it might have done better if people knew what happened in it. So I'm gonna tell you. Basically, people, when you daydream, there's a way that the daydream can be like pulled out of your head and start happening. So these 4 kids have different abilities, and they have to try and stop the reveries and like put them back in people's heads. Everyone kind of forgets that it happens after it happens, but it's so imaginative. There's like, and the opportunity for all the different kind of genre blending to go into this is so fantastic. It's just so good. And I listened to the audiobook partly, and the audiobook was also really enjoyable. Highly recommend. I'm really glad that I got to this backlist. The next book on my backlist, another like win, No Good Deed by Goldie Moldavsky. I talked about this, I think, in my July wrap up, so I did read it over the summer. This is about a camp for like up and coming activists, and the main character Gregor, or Gregor, I don't know, I'm gonna say Gregor, it's fine. Greg, no, I'm not gonna do it that. But he is going to this camp. He's very excited that he got chosen, and there's also this famous actress who is going to the camp because she's famous for her activism as well, but she's also like kind of an airhead, and this is a satire on like do-gooder culture, I want to say, like activism for that's what it's called, performative activism. There's a lot of dealing with that in here, and the ideas people have about what is possible and what people should be doing with their lives. It's very funny, it's a little dark, and just Goldie Moldavsky hits it out of the park every time. The next book I did manage to read, I'll put on the screen, is Phallos by Samuel Delaney. It's somewhere on my shelves, but I couldn't find it. I don't think I got rid of it yet. So this is a very academic based book. It is a story within a story. I didn't care for it that much. Basically, we're reading a summary of a different book, because like the summary is being written by these 3 academics, and there are footnotes of like the academics commenting on certain words or certain phrases, and it is a summary of this like erotic book about a man searching for a golden phallos. It's very strange. It's a circular narrative. It's very dense and just weird. It's a weird book, and I think you have to be willing to put in the effort to understand what it's doing in order to get a lot of enjoyment out of it. And then the other book I managed to read was Earthly Joys by Philippa Gregory, and I did unhaul this one, so it'll be on the screen somewhere so you can see the cover. This is about a famous gardener in the, I think, 1500s, 1600s. It starts with Queen Elizabeth in power and then goes to King James, and this gardener becomes the royal gardener, and it's his relationship with the monarchs, as he is like close to the monarchy but not obviously part of the gentry, and his relationship with loyalty, like loyalty to his wife, loyalty to the king or queen as it was. If you like, I've read a lot of reviews that say like, if you like gardening, this will be more interesting. I don't really care for gardening, so it was okay. I didn't love it. It's a very sprawling historical, like it follows his whole life, and I just, I read it, it was fine. So let's talk about the 6 books that I didn't get to. I didn't get to Where You Can Find Me by Sherry Joseph. This is about a boy who is kidnapped, and then his family finds him again after 3 years, and him reintroducing, like joining his family again, basically, and I don't know, healing from this. It sounds super interesting. Another book I didn't get to is Beauty is a Wound by Ika Kurniawan. I don't think I'm saying that right. This book is beautiful. I have no idea what it's about, but I've had it for a couple years. It is a book in translation. Love that. Indonesian. And I just really liked the title, and so I bought it a couple years ago. Thought, hey, maybe I should read this. Didn't. Another book on my backlist, she hefty, is The Memoirs of Cleopatra by Margaret George. I actually started reading this in 2013. Like, this is an old book. Relatively old. Came out in my lifetime, so 97. Damn, okay. It's kind of an old book. This is about Cleopatra. I think it just follows her whole life, and it's supposedly her memoir, so she's the one telling the story. I got like 130 pages into this in like 2012, 2013, and then just did not keep going because it's like 900 pages, and I got bored and didn't want to read it. So I've been meaning to read this for literally years. I really loved Helen of Troy by Margaret George, and so I have like all of her books, like all of them. I have Mary Queen of Scots, I have Henry VIII, I have the Nero book that she just came out with, and I have not read this. So I think this is going to be on my 2023 list as well, because I just want to read it, and I hope it's good. Next on my list is Possession by A.S. Byatt. Not really sure where my copy of this went, so I'll put it on the screen. This is, I've heard that it is a queer love story, and it has to do with books. That's all I know. I bought it from a library book sale because I heard it was queer, and I want to say probably like 10 years ago, I would buy any book if it said it had queer characters, queer storyline, queer anything, just because I was so desperate for that representation and for that to be mainstream. I think a lot of people nowadays like take for granted how mainstream queer stories are, but genuinely in the 90s, in the early 2000s, if there were queer stories, they were sad, and there weren't a lot of them. This Possession is one of the books that I bought because it had a queer storyline and I wanted to know more. Especially, let's talk about like the lack of lesbians in the 90s was insane. And today you still see male-male romances more often than female-female romances. And of course, like transgender or asexual or any other or less well-known, we'll say, identity is just still not represented. So there's still a long way to go, but get off my soapbox. That's why Possession is on my list and why I bought it initially. Another book with a queer storyline, The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay. I love superheroes. I want to say I love comic books, but I haven't read comic books. I like comic book movies. Does that make me basic? Probably. This is by Michael Chabon. I have had this book on my list for literal years. That's why these backlist books were supposed to be priority, because I have wanted to read them for at least 5 years and just haven't. And I still haven't, and I'm sad about it. So this is about comic book writers, I believe, in the 30s and 40s and the invention of like superhero comics. I'm very interested in, I guess I like comic book history. And I do like comic books, though I don't read them often. Does that make sense? And the final book on my backlist that I did not get to is The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield. I don't know where my copy is, and this is about books, and that's really all I know, because I didn't heckin' read it. Those were my backlist priority books of 2022. I'm going to do a video about my priority backlist books for 2023. These are books that I've had on my shelves forever, and I need to read them. So if you want to see what those priorities are, go ahead and subscribe, like this video, see you around, and thanks for watching. Do whatever you want. Bye!